Hi, Tom from bknutrition.com, and today I want to talk about starvation mode and what to do when you drop your calories too low and you're unable to lose body fat. Now, starvation mode is something that's been put around by fitness gurus and people in the fitness industry for about 10 to 20 years. Unfortunately, because it's been said so much, people now believe it's entered into the mainstream of conversation. And you'll often hear people saying, oh, I've stopped making progress on my diet, and some fitness guru will pop up going, hey, you're probably in starvation mode because you've dropped your calories too low. Do my metabolic fix diet and it will fix your metabolism because your metabolism's broken, and pay me £1,000 to do that. So I want to discuss starvation mode. I want to discuss calorie deficits, how to create a calorie deficit that fits you, and also how to know if you've entered starvation mode, which you won't ever do because it doesn't really exist. But I'm going to go around the sort of science and also the physical things that manifest. So first of all, starvation mode. If you haven't heard of it, you've done what it is. It's the synopsis is that you're on a diet, you drop calories too low, your body reacts to that by saying, oh, we're going to switch on starvation mode. And as soon as starvation mode is switched on, everything you eat then turns to body fat until you gain all the fat back again, and you actually gain more body fat than what you had before. This is quite common. I see this a lot with clients who come to chat to me, say, oh, I've done a load of different diets, and what happens is I make progress a bit and then I stop making progress and then I eat a bit more and to try and boost my metabolism, and I end up gaining all the weight back again. And this is quite common. I've seen it probably hundreds, maybe thousands of times in my 10 years plus as a body transformation consultant. And I just wanted to put out there that it's not actually a thing. But what it does happen, what is very real, is the body can engage certain processes to prevent you essentially dying from restricting your calories too low. Now I don't want to sort of scare anybody who's going on a diet thinking, oh, I hope I don't die, because you won't, because it takes a long time for you to die from not eating. And even people who go on hunger strikes last, for weeks and weeks without dying. So it's unlikely that's going to happen to you on your diet, because you are going to eat something. But what does happen is that the body, when it recognizes there's a significant calorie deficit, it starts to shut down or slow down some of the processes that you do in your everyday life. So we have in our life about 4 key areas where we burn calories in the day. The first is RMR or BMR, which is resting metabolic rate or base metabolic rate. They're often used interchangeably, and normally I would use RMR, resting metabolic rate. That's the energy you burn just existing. So sat on the sofa all day just breathing, digesting your food. Well, actually, not digesting your food, that's another one. So breathing, your heart rate going, your brain working, that's resting metabolic rate. Then you have TEF, which is the digestion of food. It's thermic effect of food. So every time you eat food, your body has to burn some calories in order to get the energy out of the food. So it's the calorie cost of eating. So that's about 10% on average. So if you ate a 200 calorie meal, you would burn 20 calories to get those 200 calories out. So you have a net of 180 calories. So that's the thermic effect of food. And then you have something called NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That is everything you burn not in the gym or not exercising. So walking around in the day, walking to the fridge, me sat here talking on YouTube, on the podcast to you right now, that's NEAT activity. I'm still using calories, I'm still using more than I would be sat down doing nothing, but I am using slightly more calories. That's called NEAT activity. And then you have EAT, which is exercise activity thermogenesis. So that's obviously in the gym, swimming, running about, basketball, whatever your proposed activity or your favorite activity to do, that's EAT. So we can't really adjust the resting metabolic rate because that's the stuff that keeps you alive. So you don't really want to cut that down if you can. And the only way really you can cut down your resting metabolic rate is maybe take out a kidney, cut off an arm or a leg or something. That's not really on the cards for most people on a diet. So then we look at TEF. Well, okay, if you reduce how much food you're eating, yes, you're going to reduce your thermic effect of food, because if you drop from 3,000 calories a day to 2,000 calories a day, then you'll be digesting less food and you'll maybe drop about 100 calories from your thermic effect of food. It's not loads, is it? And then you've dropped about a third of your food out, so that's not good either. So what the body does when it looks to maybe compensate for this huge calorie deficit that you might have created is to restrict your non-exercise activity thermogenesis and also make your workouts harder so that you do less activity and burn less calories when you're exercising. So the way it will do it with NEAT is to stop you walking around, make you feel really tired, make you want to go to sleep, make any activity you want to do seem absolutely the hardest thing you want to do. So if you've ever sat on a sofa really tired, calorie deficit, and you literally can't be bothered to get up to get the remote control because you're just so tired, that's the body maybe compensating and restricting your activity, and we've all done that. And then obviously if you go into the gym and your workouts are perceived to be harder to do, that could be the fact that your body's making it that way, so you do less exercise. At the same time, it's also going to be increasing your hunger cues and your thoughts about food in order to try and get you to go and eat. Now, this is the starvation mode phenomenon. This is it in action, and fitness gurus and diet gurus will be jumping all over it saying, oh yeah, because this starvation mode is activated, you now have to fix your metabolism, and then they try and sell you a fix the metabolism diet. But what has actually happened is, because the body has slowed down your NEAT and EAT activities, what's actually happened is the calories that you were burning, which created the deficit, had now actually been brought down to match the calories that you were ingesting from food. So say, for example, you create a 1,000 calorie deficit and the body restricts you and brings you down with this method. You're actually still eating really low food, but you're not burning any more body fat because the deficit is so low or non-existent. And this is where most people get to when they say, oh, my diet has plateaued. And then what happens is, because they can't restrict themselves any further, they tend to break. So it's what I call a prison diet. It's in my book when I talk about prison diets, a restrictive diet which you have no control over, and you restrict yourself so much, things stop happening, and then what happens is you actually break, you go on a binge, and you feel really good because you're eating loads of food. And then you don't really fancy going back to that diet again, so you keep on eating. And this is the rebound effect, which makes you gain loads of fat back. And because you're not aware of how many calories you've eaten, because you probably don't track it, that is the, oh, I went on a diet and then I ate loads of food and it all turned to fat. It didn't all turn to fat, it's just your perception. That's what happened, because you were on so low calories and then you went up massively. And because the body takes time to catch up, to ramp up its metabolism again, and to get your NEAT and everything else back up again, you just created a massive surplus, which then resulted in a massive amount of body fat being stored. So that's the sort of starvation mode in action, and that's why people say, oh, you're not eating enough to lose weight. And this is what would be quite confusing, because fitness gurus recently have, it used to be, oh, calories don't exist, and get up at 4 a.m, do the grind harder, you know, winners want it, and blah, 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 all that stuff, all that rhetoric. So that used to be the fitness message, you know, just go and get it, go and do the exercise, blah, blah, blah. Now, science has become quite trendy for fitness people. So now where people are talking about 4 a.m. cardio and the grind, now they're talking about calorie deficit. Although a lot of them aren't really qualified to know what a calorie deficit is, they just know you have to create one. And so what they normally do on their plans is create a calorie deficit by restricting loads of food that you like. So they say, oh, you can't eat cakes, can't eat bagels, can't eat toast, whatever. You must eat only white foods. You must eat no carbs, because that will drop the calories off, and then some magical keto thing will happen. So they create these diets, which are often piggybacked on other diets, which will create a calorie deficit, but they call it their own unique little diet thing. And they sell you it and say, this will work, this is what got me in shape, this will work, and you go on that diet. But unfortunately, that diet then creates starvation mode, you know, in inverted commas, and then and you come off that diet, binge loads, and then gain all the way back again. But in that time that you've done that, you've had your 6-week shred plan with them, and they've got their before and after pictures from you. So they've got what they want, because they can sell that diet to hundreds of other people using your photos. But actually for you, what happens is 2 weeks after the 6-week shred, you've gained all the weight back again, because they haven't actually educated you about diets. So this is what this video is for, is to help you educate and understand why these things happen and stop them happening to you, and stop you wasting a ton of money on diets that don't work. So how do we know? Because we've got to know we've got to create a calorie deficit, but we don't want to go into starvation mode. So we need as much deficit to lose body fat, but not to enter starvation mode and break our metabolism. This is all very tongue-in-cheek, you know. So if you're listening to this, you can't see me on the video, it is sarcastic. So to create a calorie deficit which is tolerable for your body, because the body likes a level of sort of happiness. It's called homeostasis, and there's a level that your body will be happy with. If you can imagine yourself in a room, someone turned up the thermostat massively up to be really hot, you would start sweating, you'd want to open the windows to cool down. Same if they turn the thermostat down massively, so you're really cold, you would take extreme steps to heat yourself up. But turning that thermostat 1 or 2 degrees on either side is not really going to affect you massively. And that's where we need to stick in. We need to turn that sort of calorie deficit ever so slightly, so the body's happy to lose weight, but is not going to think, oh, hold on, something bad is happening here, we need to react to it. And that's where the starvation mode, restricted metabolism, that sort of thing comes in. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, you could use a calorie calculator. There's hundreds on the web. You can use my calorie calculator, bknutrition/calculator. Put your variables into that. So I ask you for height, weight, your sex, your activity during the day, all those things, all those biometric variables. And what that does, it allows me to work out your NEAT, your exercise activity, your RMR, all those things. That goes into a working out formula, magic formula, and it will spit back to you your calories for fat loss. Now that will be about 500 calories. Now if you are a very small person, so if you are potentially a 50 kilo lady, you probably don't want a 500 calorie deficit, because your calories anyway are going to be low. So say if you're like, your RMR or your daily energy expenditure is like 1500 calories, you don't want to be dropping a third of that off. So you've got to be a little bit mindful of this. The calorie calculator on my website will give you a 500 calorie deficit. So if you are a very small lady, for example, you want to take that with a pinch of salt, maybe add another few calories to it. Same as if you're a very overweight person, potentially 500 calories isn't going to be enough, because you need to restrict a little bit more. So you've got to have a little bit of sort of creative thought here. But for most people, for 90% of people, if you use that calorie calculator, it will give you accurate calories to try and aim for, and also macros to aim for. Now macros aren't that important for losing body fat. Calories is the main driver for losing body fat. Macros will come into it in terms of keeping you on that diet. So generally higher protein diets generally tend to be better for keeping you full and keeping you satisfied so you're not hungry. I generally tend to go away from high fat diets, because if you overeat on high fat, it's a lot easier for the body to turn fat into body fat rather than it is from carbs or protein. And carbs are not the enemy here. Although there are certain conditions where carbs, you do have to be managed. I do work with those sorts of people who have those conditions. Generally, carbs for most people will be tolerable to a certain degree. So although macros can be important a bit further down the line, it's more important to hit your calories. Now, a 500 calorie deficit for most people, little people aside, small women or small guys, that will be tolerable. So we can work within a 500 calorie deficit. Now, what we need to be thinking about doing is monitoring things like our steps, our calories in from food, our calories out from exercise, and also monitoring from photos. Because what will generally tend to happen is, and I see this a lot with clients, especially female clients, is what you tend to find is that body weight may not move that much, but body composition, as in how you look in the mirror in terms of muscle and body fat, will change. And I do find this a lot of women, is that sometimes their weight doesn't change that much, but they do look a lot different in the mirror. So it's also important to monitor how you look with progress photos. So if you're going to take progress photos, take them at the same time, on the same day, in the same light, in the same clothes if you can. So the only thing that's changing is your body, not the conditions that you're taking the photo in. If you want to take progress photos, stand in front of a camera, which is on a video, stand facing, then turn, hold for about 3 seconds, turn to the back, hold for 3 seconds, come around to the side, hold for 3 seconds. And then when you've taken those pictures, what you can then do is take a screenshot of the perfect moment when you're in the perfect position. Because what generally tends to happen with people taking a photo of you, they say, oh, hold it, and you go, and you move around, and then you don't look as good. So if you're doing a video, you can hold yourself properly and then choose which frame you're gonna have. But it's really important to monitor all those things, because weight is not an indicator of progress, although it can be, as in the only indicator of progress, but it can be a good indicator about where things are going on average. The photos will be a very good indicator, but you also want to monitor your calories in and calories out, because especially with steps. Because what happens with steps, remember I talked earlier about NEAT, and when NEAT starts to slow down, that's your steps slowing down. Well, the body's first thing, if you're in a calorie deficit for a sustained period of time, will be to try and slow you down ever so slightly. It won't hit you like a ton of bricks, you'll just do it very, very slightly. And when I'm working with clients, we're always monitoring steps, because that is the thing that we'll see first in terms of their overall daily activity. Whereas exercise activity is only like 40 minutes in the day. It's only about maybe 20% of your total daily calorie expenditure. Whereas NEAT will be a lot of your day, because you're walking around and moving around in the day, whereas your workout is only 1 hour of that day. So the body will go for that first. That's the low-hanging fruit, so it will try and slow you down. So this is what we monitor steps first. Now, if you are moving towards starvation mode, for want of a better term, your steps will start to slow down, but you also get more hunger cues. Now, if that is the case, we might need to look at, is the calorie deficit too much, or have we been on the diet for too long? Do we need a break? Do we need time to ramp up the calories a few days in order to get all those hormones balanced again and to move things up? Because one thing that will happen when you're on a diet for a sustained period of time, your thyroid output will drop slightly. That's your thyroid hormone, which controls your metabolism, and your leptin level will go up, which means that you are more hungry. So we want to address those hormones by then thinking, right, how can we have maybe a higher carb day, maybe once or twice a week, or we have more calories on, say, Friday, Saturday, and lower Monday to Friday. So Saturday, Sunday have higher calories, and Monday to Friday have lower calories. That works very well for people who are, say, working in a 9-to-5 job, in a normal job. So when they're during the week, when they are working in their job, they're very focused because they're on their work. On the weekend, generally is the time that they will be with their kids or their family or their partner, and that's the time, or their friends going out. And that's the times when they're going to sneak into things like restaurants or pizzas or ice cream or something like that. So I generally tend to say to people, well, look to have higher calories on the weekend, lower calories in the weekdays, because then you are giving yourself higher calorie days as well as lower calorie days, so that there's not a straight line deficit. Because the straight line deficit I found working with clients is the quickest way to get people into this sort of shutdown or slow down effect. So that would be my guide to avoiding starvation mode. It's not a thing that starvation mode exists. It's not a thing that if you drop your calories too low, you'll stop losing body fat. There's not like a red line that you go underneath and that stops you losing body fat. But what you do need to be mindful of is that if you drop your calories too low for too long, your body will compensate for that by dropping its output. And you need to be mindful of that and be monitoring those indicators to check that that's not happening. And that's where a coach will come in. That's where a coach would help monitor that for you. You can do it yourself, of course. You've got spreadsheets and everything else. And if you go onto my website, onto the BK Nutrition /services, there is actually a Google Sheets you can download, which will help you monitor. It's all set up with steps, calories in, calories out, that sort of thing. It's all set up. All you need to do is put your variables in, and you can monitor it for yourself for free. But what I would stress here is we are our own worst people for lying to ourselves and not putting in the right data. You probably will need someone to help you with that, like an accountability partner, like a friend, a trusted friend who's going to tell it to you straight, not someone who's just going to yes man you, or a coach. And that's obviously the stuff I do, and I do with many clients. So hopefully that was helpful, and hopefully you got something from that. If you like this video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more of my videos, why don't you hit the subscribe button and share with every single person you've ever met in your life so that my message can get out there. Okay, see you next time. Thanks for watching.